Chapter 7. Stick with the plan. Dam's vehicle slowly makes its way out of the parking and onto the street. A worker who was standing in front of Dam's vehicle earlier, when it was parked, watched them leave. He looks bored and uninterested, and clearly tired of working throughout his shift. He opens his mouth as he lets out a big yawn. That one can even see his tonsils. Out of nowhere, his tonsil fallen into his throat, outside the mouth. Guano closes his mouth after yawning. Anne, Lane, and Guano are standing on a sidewalk, discussing their plan and gearing themselves up for its execution. There is a small business building across from the sidewalk where they are standing. Guano looks up with narrowed eyes and focuses hard on the name that's embossed on the building. West. Me. None. Guano tries to read the name on the building. Anne interrupts him as he says, "All right, everyone, be quiet. Let's get in position. Lane, are you ready?" "Fuck yeah, I'm fucking ready! Let's fucking do it!" Lane said in an excited voice. Lane is about to run across the street, but Anne grabs him by the left shoulder as he tries to calm him down and says, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! It's not time yet. When the clock hits it, then we move. Just be patient." "Bullshit! Let's fucking do it right fucking now! Fucking right now!" says Lane impatiently. Anne tries to quieten him down and says in a whisper, "We've got 3 minutes to relax. So, behave." Lane rolls his eyes. "Sure, whatever." "Fuck." Anne taps Lane on his left shoulder again. He looks and goes to stand right in front of Guano as he looks at him in the eyes. Anne says, "What about you, Guano? Are you ready?" Guano didn't say anything. He looks a little nervous as Anne senses his nervousness and says, "Are you all right?" Guano still doesn't respond, which makes Anne a little concerned. Anne looks at him as he asks, "Is there something wrong? You seem nervous." Guano closes into his eyes and shakes his head. Anne puts a reassuring hand on his shoulder as he says, "It's okay to be nervous. I'm nervous, and Lane looks nervous too." Lane looks at them incredulously and says, "I'm not fucking nervous. Fuck you." Guano quickly opens his eyes and looks at Lane. Anne shakes his head and says in a reprimanding tone, "You're not helping here, Lane." Lane crosses his arms across on his chest and rolls his eyes. Anne softly puts his hands on Guano's shoulders again as he says, "It's going to be all right, as long we follow the plan." Guano stops looking at Lane and slowly moves his eyes to look at Anne. In a soft tone, which is so unlike Guano, he asks, "How do you know?" Anne says, "Because." He is cut short when Lane says, "Fuck, man! Come on!" Anne lets go of Guano's shoulders and looks at Lane's back. He seems like a child on a sugar drive. Like a parent, Anne says, "Patient, all right. We got like 1 minute." Labe rolls his eyes and, with the same energy, says, "Fuck this shit, let's just fucking go." Before they know it, Lane is already running across the street. A vehicle stops and honks its horn. It had nearly hit Lane's lower legs. Anne sighs looking at Lane running ahead of time, like always. He shakes his head and turns towards Guano as he says, "Well, just get in place." Anne taps Guano on the right shoulder as he says, "Remember to stay relaxed and calm." Guano is walking across the street as he looks both ways while crossing the road. Anne shouts at Guano's back, "And follow the plan. Everything will be smooth." Anne is running on the sidewalk. He's shoving and pushing people out of his way. The people who are being pushed are glaring and grunting at him. There is weird chaos behind Anne as the street is filled with sounds of shouting and swearing in a loud voice. The chaser shouts, "Stop running!" Anne starts to slow down and makes a left turn in a back alley. He hides behind a brick wall as he tries to slow down. Anne is breathing heavily, and suddenly, he's trying to control his breathing. The other chaser looks towards the alley as he shouts, "Look! He's up ahead! Get him!" The chasers walk and pass by Anne while he's hiding by the brick wall. Anne takes a peek outside the alley and noticed all the chasers are gone. Sudden relief crosses his face as he sighs. 2 men stop at the middle of the sidewalk. Beside them on their left is the back alley. The two men look tired as exhaustion takes over their being. The sixth chaser bends down with his hands on his knees. He's panting as he says, "Shit." He runs fast. The seventh chaser pants and gasps for air as he says, "Yeah." Gasps. "Couldn't even catch up to him." Gasps. "Do you think we should keep going?" The sixth chaser responds while being in the same condition. "Nah." Gasps. "They probably got him by now." Both of them were bending by the wall and panting when suddenly they realize something. They slowly turn their head and look at their left to see Anne standing there. He's still leaning by the brick wall while staring at them. As he notices that they have seen him, he leaves the brick wall and quickly runs into the alley. The two chasers don't waste even a second as they run after him and enter the alley. The chasers are chasing after Anne inside the alley. Anne is in the middle of the alley, where he looks at the metal fence. He runs and quickly climbs up the metal fence and jumps towards the other side of the fence. Once on the other side, Anne starts running again as he looks behind him. The chasers get to the fence and start climbing it as well. One of the chasers is having trouble climbing up the metal fence, while the other chaser is on the other side of the fence, already making his way towards Anne. The other chaser starts running and turns his head to look at the chaser who is struggling with climbing up the fence. The chaser on the other side shouts at him, "Come along, Jamie!" The chaser almost catches up to Anne inside the alley. While running, Anne turns his head and notices that one of the chasers is close, but still too far to reach him instantly. Suddenly, Anne trips on something and falls to the ground on his back. Anne is lying on the ground looking disgruntled, but he knows that he doesn't have time to spare. He quickly sits up and picks up the object that he tripped on. Anne looks at the object suspiciously at first, then smirks as he reads, "Bug spray." On the bug spray bottle, there is a slogan written in red font, and it reads, "The best." A cartoony bright red beetle is grinning on the upper right side of the slogan. On the bottom of the spray, in a small white font, there is a black typing that reads, "Extremely dangerous. Make sure to wear protection for your face while using our products. If our product gets on your face, call the emergency and remain calm. Keep it away from children of all ages. Our products are not a toy to play with." Anne looks at the spray as an evil idea pops up in his head. He smiles while quickly shaking the spray. The chaser shouts at Anne, "Stay right there!" Anne gets up to his feet and turns around. He looks at the chaser, while he is still holding the bug spray and waiting for the chaser to get closer. When the chaser is up to Anne's face, he sprays the bug spray on the chaser. His eyes, nose, and mouth is covered in the lethal spray. The chaser gets the effect quickly as he screams out loud. He falls to the ground and puts both of his hands on his face while still screaming. Anne just looks down at the chaser and then up to the other chaser, who finally catches up to Anne and his partner. Jamie shouts at his partner, who is still lying on the ground in a haphazard state, "Ken!" Anne quickly runs away from the alley as Jamie kneels down on the ground and tries to help Ken. Jamie looks at the back of Anne's head, who is running quickly out of the alley, and shouts, "Jesus, what did you do?" As Anne runs forward, without paying any heed to one of the chasers shouting behind him, he almost misses the two people walking in front of him, carrying a big glass window from inside a store around the corner of the street. There are 3 people, including 2 carriers holding the glass from either side, while one other man is supervising them, standing on the right side of the glass. While running, Anne notices the 3 men, but couldn't see the crystal-clear glass window. The supervisor hears someone coming from behind, and before it's too late, he turns around and warns Anne. "Hey kid, stop!" the supervisor says loudly. Anne is stunned as his steps come to an abrupt halt. He looks at the man questioningly, and the man explains, "Watch where you're going, we're carrying glass here." That's when Anne notices the glass. He looks up and smiles at the supervisor, looking genuinely grateful and apologetic at the same time, as he says, "Sorry about that." The supervisor nods as he says, "And be more careful." Anne nods back, "I will." Anne slowly runs around the glass window, and being super careful, don't want to make any mistakes. Jamie puts his uniform shirt at the back of Ken's head, while gently removing his head from his lap and softly placing it on the shirt. He looks at his friend in pain and says, "Don't worry, Ken. I'll get that motherfucker for you." Jamie looks at Anne's back as he runs fast out of the alley and gets up on his feet, running like a horse after him. He has a menacing look on his face as he runs like he's gone crazy. The two carriers are now on the right side of the glass, while their supervisor is at the left side of the glass. "All right, we just need to—" "Hey, wait!" The supervisor was just instructing the carriers, and he doesn't realize the commotion behind him until it was too late. Jamie smashes through the glass window. After crossing it, he trips and falls down on his knees. His face is full of glass, and due to the impact of the glass shreds scratching his face, blood started to come out. He starts screaming out of pain. Every time he tries to speak a word, he spits glass shred and blood from his mouth. "Oh! This fucking hurts," Jamie says in anguish. After a moment, Jamie falls to the ground hard, face first. The two carriers go up to Jamie's back. "There goes my new window," the supervisor says out of exasperation. Anne is running down the sidewalk and jaywalking on a crosswalk and pushing people out of his way. Anne is running down the sidewalk and pushing people out of his way. In between running and pushing people away, he crosses path with Daisy and her mother. Daisy looks up while smiling at Anne as she says, "Hi, Anne. Nice to meet you again." "Ow." Anne pushes her and her mother out of the way, on the left side of the sidewalk. Anne looks ahead of him and notices another crosswalk as he quickly made his way towards it. The old lady who was struggling with her stick is standing and waiting across the symbol on the signboard. Anne, while running, pushes the old lady on his right and quickly runs on the crosswalk. As he is running, he steps on a mouse, who was just crossing the street along with others on the crosswalk. The mouse squealed as he gets rampaged by Anne, while he is in such a hurry that doesn't even notice the vehicle coming towards him. That almost hits his right leg as the driver honks the horn and shouts from inside the vehicle in sheer frustration. Anne has already made it to the other side of the street, took a left turn, and is still running without a pause. While still running, he turns his head back to see if anyone is chasing him, to see no one behind him. Anne smiles while still running as he sighs a breath of relief and says, "Lucky?